Welcome to Mission Matters here at Salem First Presbyterian Church. I'm Rob Thrasher, Minister of Discipleship and Mission. On today's episode, we'll be chatting with Carolyn Kurtz. Carolyn has been a lifelong missionary in Africa, in several countries, but mostly in Ethiopia where she grew up. We're going to be hearing a little bit about her project in Maji, as well as just chatting with her about her life and her relationship with Christ. So let's have a listen. Well, hello, Carolyn, and welcome to Mission Matters. We're delighted to have you here with us. So could you tell us a little bit about your background in your mission work in your life, and maybe a few highlights of what you're currently working on now?
Sure. My parents became Presbyterian missionaries in the 1950s. So I grew up in Ethiopia and went to boarding schools and had the whole mission experience from age 5 to age 18. And then I went back with my husband and my kids for 6 years to teach Ethiopian children. Later had 4 more years in Kenya working with the South Sudanese during the civil war there. And then came back here and did mission speaking and mission promotion of projects, still connecting with projects in Ethiopia. So I did that for another 12 years. I have 3 children who are grown, and I have 10 grandchildren, which is a shocker for me. And but none of them are here with me. I live in Portland, Oregon, and after my husband died in 2013, I kind of retired and didn't know what I was going to do. And as I prayed through that first year especially, I felt like God just kept saying, you know, I've got something for you to do, just relax. When the time is right, I'll let you know. And as it turns out, I've started my own nonprofit back in Ethiopia, in the area, in the very remote mission area that I grew up in as a young child. The electric grid doesn't reach that far from the capital, so they have no power source. So I've been taking solar power in, and also have a dream of using both the solar power and other organizational tools to help women who are in a very burdened situation in the Maji area.
Thanks for sharing that a brief glimpse into your history, and I love hearing the new project that you're doing with your retirement. That's fabulous. So this is a more personal question. Just want to know, how are you doing? How are you and your loved ones managing during this time of pandemic and this lockdown that we've had with the COVID-19 virus?
Well, I live by myself here in Portland, and so I'm being very careful. I'm seeing a lot fewer people in the flesh. My kids got me onto, it's called Marco Polo, and we video. It's kind of like leaving a voicemail, only it's a video. And we have actually had more contact with each other that way than we ever had before this all started. The grandkids get on from time to time as well. Everybody's well. At this point, somebody in all of the families, I have 3 grown children, a daughter who's a nurse practitioner in Ohio, and 2 sons here in Oregon who are both connected with the education systems in their towns. And at least one person from each family is still employed. So that's also very good. I have been putting together what I'm calling a pandemic budget for my nonprofit, and have been upgrading systems, donor tracking systems, accounting systems, getting those kinds of things in better shape. That's something that I can do right now and be ready for when things are opening up again. I'm also, just on just yesterday talked with my publisher about a sequel to my book that was published just last July and just won the Presbyterian Writers Guild Award for Best First Book. And she's reading the sequel to it, and I've started a third. So I'm keeping plenty busy and in good spirits.
Well, hey, congratulations on your book award. That's so
Thank you.
exciting to hear, and that you have a sequel coming out. That's going to be a lot of fun. So you had mentioned some things that you were doing with the Maji Development Coalition. What role are you serving in that?
Well, I'm the founder and executive director, and we just had a board meeting and passed what I'm calling the pandemic budget. We're in a very solid place because we came into the year with quite a bit planned for this year, quite a bit of funds built up for this year, and we do not have staff here in the United States where labor is more expensive. I've got a couple of staff people in Ethiopia, and I have plenty of money to keep funding them, and they can keep going. So we're in a good place financially, and I am able, amazing the way technology works these days, but I'm able to stay in touch all the way down to remote Maji, where there's no electricity, but there's a cell tower run by solar. And so I can call Skype to phone to my business manager there and stay in touch with him and supervise from here. So that is a very dear thing for me. A very dear part of my life is staying in touch through those. It's almost halfway around the world.
So good to hear. That's a great transition point, I think, for my next question. Because you mentioned a few things that you mentioned your budget and finances and things like that. But how has this virus, the coronavirus, COVID-19, had influence or impact upon the work that you're doing? Maybe there's some hardships you've had, or maybe, like you said, there's some blessings that have happened as well.
Well, February, ironically, I got home just before everything kind of hit the fan here in the United States. I was in Ethiopia in February, beginning of February, for 3 weeks, and had taken medical people over there to work in the Maji hospital. And we had done a week-long medical mission. I've been concerned about the hospital for a while because there's no power source. So how do you run a hospital with no power? So it's just a big clinic. Everything is just by hand, and they can't do surgery, and they don't have refrigeration for vaccines and everything you need for a hospital. So I had met with leaders while I was there, and we had talked about the hospital, and they had agreed that it should be a priority for 2020, and that they would work on getting funding, local funding, for cost sharing. So that was all in place just in February. The other things we had hoped to get going, we are putting off to the side some of the women's development work and probably the individual solar home systems for families in order to get the hospital functional, because we're all so aware of how critical a hospital could be. Right now, Ethiopia is really containing the virus well. They're quarantining people, they're testing widely. In Addis Ababa, they've had over 100 cases and 4 deaths. I mean, that's fantastic. And we're just praying that it stays that way. They've shut down transportation out to the provinces to try to maintain that control. But they're just absolutely naked before the onslaught if it should get out. So I got in touch with them and told them what we were thinking about making the hospital the priority for this year. And they were incredibly touched that with our situation in the United States, so much worse than theirs, we still believe there are people who will give and that we can come through for them in this way. So, I mean, they were just blown away and just completely touched and moved that we would still prioritize their hospital. So I'm in the middle right now of working out with email and Skype to phone an MOU where we all say what we're going to do and what we're responsible for. And I participated in the hashtag Giving Tuesday Now, which was a special giving day because of the coronavirus, and we just blew past the outrageous goal that I set. So people are really responding, I think, all over the place, whether it's food or housing or this one overseas. People who are being really, really generous. So that's been a huge blessing, and it's exciting to be in the middle of doing this and being able to do it with technology and planning for when we can actually make an order and get that equipment down there and get them electrified.
Thanks again for sharing that. That's such a great story of seeing how God provides, and almost as if there was a hand of protection for your ministry even before we all knew what was coming. And that's so neat to see how those dots connect for you in the ministry in Maji. Such a beautiful story. Thanks for sharing. So my next question is more spiritual and personal as well. I'm curious as to what is God leading you in or speaking to you, or what are you discerning that God is revealing to you as you navigate this unique time in our world history?
Well, I was already kind of at the edges of this awareness, realizing how tempting it is to try to plan for the future in a detailed kind of way, and how silly that is, because things happen that you could not imagine. And so by the time you come to a decision moment, all the ideas you had are a little bit out of kilter because something happened between when you were creating ideas and when it was time to make the decision. And that need to stay flexible all the way up till the moment comes for decision making. Well, if I wasn't getting that before, I really get it now. And trusting, moving forward without knowing what the future is going to be, but trusting that I will have wisdom for the decisions that do need to be made. I'll have wisdom in that moment. I can think about and plan in a very fluid and flexible way, but I don't have to worry. I don't have to stew. Things will be so much more clear. All the data will be in by the time I need to make the decision. So that's been both a discipline and a blessing, because, I want to worry just as much as anybody, and I want to know the future, and that's just not available to me. So moving forward on a big project like this, we don't know when things will open up, and we don't know exactly what's going to happen. I don't know when the next time is that I can travel to Ethiopia, when we get a vaccine and it's safe for me at my age to travel. So lots of unknowns, and the ability to stay relaxed and flexible and know that God's Spirit, God's wisdom will guide me when the moment comes to make the actual decision.
That's fantastic. Thank you for sharing. It's been really encouraging to have this brief conversation with you and to catch up and to hear how life has been during this time for you and all the work that you're doing. And we're so grateful to be a partner with you. Maybe we can glean some things that we can be praying for you about, but maybe there's a couple of specifics that you would say, boy, that would be really great if you could pray about this for us.
Yeah, there is one. Our solar tech was pretty sick. I saw him once when I was there in February, And the medical situation in Ethiopia isn't sophisticated enough for tough situations. He should probably have gone to Thailand or India for follow-up with something that they haven't even for sure identified, although they're treating him. They aren't sure what it is. They're treating him with something. It's coming to me third or fourth hand, but he's been very, very sick. And I have a deep concern for him. His name is Jonas, which is the Amharic pronunciation of Jonah. I would love to have people pray for him.
All right, will do. You can count on it. Again, thank you so much for your time with us. It's been a delight.
Thank you, Rob. I love your church, your community, those that I know, and I appreciate the interest of those I haven't met yet, and hopefully down the road we'll have a chance to meet.